The most cold-blooded hit I've ever seen on camera was that of a guy named Fifth in Toronto. He was
Oh,
waiting
in
in what
Toronto?
looked like an apartment building, staring down at his phone, when two men approached and fired through the window, with one of the two
Woo!
wiping his prints off the weapon mid-shooting before wiping the door down, opening it, and firing a bit more. I have seen a lot of footage, heard a lot of stories, but when you see something like this, you know it's not just the work of a rookie. Toronto
Right.
has a homicide clearance rate of 80% alongside a low crime rate, making it the sixth safest major city in the
Oh,
entire world.
right.
Now, this is the fourth largest city in North America. That's out of 46 different countries and territories, including the US, all
That's
of
crazy.
Central America, and 47 if you include Puerto Rico as its own separate thing.
So
With
it's
law
really safe
enforcement
as
this
hell out
effective,
there.
a person that gets away with murder in Toronto is arguably one of the most dangerous people on this side of the planet.
Right.
And this fifth guy, this is a man that allegedly had his casket carried by Drake.
Oh.
Caught on high definition camera almost 10 years ago, this murder is still unsolved. Despite the fact that the getaway car was
Damn.
caught on two different cameras, although it appeared to have no plates. And this also happened in an area of Toronto, Scarborough, which has a crime rate lower than the city average. Now, Toronto itself only has 172 open unsolved murder investigations
Wow.
since 2004. Now, this
Wow.
doesn't include cold cases,
Only
which Toronto
100
has over 700.
Only 100 some cases that they haven't found a culprit for. In what do you say, 20 years? Damn.
But just for reference,
That's
from
like
2014
what, 2 a year? That's crazy. That's safe as hell, bro.
to 2023, a span of just 9 years, St. Louis, a city with about 2 million fewer people than Toronto, saw over 1,000 unsolved murders.
God
My point is, the
damn.
brutality in a place like Toronto more than makes up for the low crime rate, due to the fact that to get away with something like this, you actually have to take a calculated risk. Something,
Yeah.
despite the perception, most American cities just don't see.
Yeah.
And like I said in a previous video,
Like, if you
the
out there catching bodies, boy, you that's a real risk. Like, you probably gonna get caught type shit. You catch a body in St. Louis, Chicago. It's honestly in Chicago, they only 20% of their murders get solved in Chicago, bro. You know what I'm saying?
similarities between
I want to put y'all on to some of the easiest money you'll ever make in your life. Freecash.com is a website that allows you to literally get paid hundreds of dollars just for playing video games on your phone. All you need is an email and a password. Follow the directions on each of the campaigns and you can earn at least $100. My personal favorite game to play was Sunrise Island, and when I clicked on it, they had a $370 bonus. I got $370 just for playing a video game on my phone. On average, it only takes about 17 minutes for most people to start earning money on freecash.com. So if you need some free, easy, extra money, go to freecash.com, click the QR code right here, or go in the description below and start getting that bag. You did?
New York and Toronto are striking. But then again, due to the drill culture, many cities see the same sort of violence and disrespect. One of the gangs I came across that struck me in my research was, of course, NHS, a clique started by a kid called NHSJJ, and he actually ended up deceased under mysterious circumstances that allegedly started with a chain of events that was set off when he allegedly tried to collect a bounty placed on another Toronto rapper's head, a guy called Thoroughbred who has been in the rap scene for over a decade, and he actually was arrested in LA due to his involvement allegedly in a Miami murder years later. But supposedly, NHSJJ heard about some kind of bounty, no matter how much it was, and went to collect it while Thoroughbred was in the car with his daughter. And he allegedly fired at least 60 shots according to the intended target, but this could just be an exaggeration. Fortunately though, both Thoroughbred and his daughter survived, although his daughter was grazed by a bullet. According to rumors and even lyrics from Thoroughbred himself, he returned the favor by putting money on JJ's head, allegedly.
I ain't gonna lie. It's kind of like, what you gonna do, bro? Because even if you could go to the police and tell them that this happened, but if you don't have a video, if you don't have evidence that that was him, if you don't have something hard and concrete, that ain't gonna do nothing for that police. You just somebody that told them something. So it's like, it's either go handle the business yourself, and in Toronto you'll probably get caught, or try to pay somebody to do it for you. Because that nigga just shot 60 shots at you when you was in the car with your daughter. It's no longer it's not like we can't talk about it no more. It's either I run away if I have the money to run away, or I put some money on your head. Like, that you kind of backed him into a corner, shorty.
Which led to him being backdoored and left dead inside of his own
He got
home.
backdoored.
Now, often when somebody dies, a girl or just guys who pretended to be friends with the victim get the blame for a mysterious situation like this.
Right.
Well, I must say, being killed inside your own home where the police don't suspect a home invasion does make it seem like he might have let his own killers in, which is exactly what Thoroughbred said in the song, by the way. But the most chilling part of it is a video that surfaced online about a week after JJ's death that I honestly couldn't believe, but then again, we live in the 21st century where even people working in the hospital will leak a picture of a deceased rapper or gang member for money. Just think about the alleged picture of Von's autopsy that went around in 2020, the photo of YBC Duel dead in the hospital that surfaced in 2024, and also a picture of 800 TJ lying dead on a hospital bed, which floated around Chicago.
Who pays? They're not getting no money. They just trying to get a click, bro. Motherfucker trying to be important, gang. That's weird, bro. That's why I'm saying it. I don't think the internet made people weird. I think it just showed more of who the weird people really is. And once being weird start having some type of reward, like likes, clicks, views, once it start having a little bit of a reward, the real weird came out of a lot of people, twin.
Due to his own ops posting it to their social media. Pretty sick stuff. The video showed JJ walking into his house shortly before his murder. Although the video isn't very clear, there's no doubt the location looks very similar to the exact street the Niagara police state they found his body.
Right.
And this was after receiving a call about a suspicious person in the area, likely someone staked outside his home. I couldn't find the original uploader of the video.
So it was a call about a suspicious person around that same time. Damn.
The police didn't either. But the video shows that despite living in a suburb called Lincoln, over an hour away from the Jane and Finch neighborhood in Toronto, it was no secret to his ops where he lived. And despite the video shows that despite living in a suburb called
So he lived in a suburb.
Lincoln, over an hour away from the Jane and Finch neighborhood in Toronto, it was no secret to his ops where he lived. And despite Lincoln being one of the safer areas in Ontario outside of Toronto, his murder remains unsolved to this day. And this led to much of the signature disrespect of the dead that we know all too well in drill culture. And probably the most well-known person to diss him is Top 5, a pretty menacing figure in the Toronto scene that has had his name associated with Drake in the past, including Top 5 once referring to himself as Drake Shooter. Although this could have just been for clout, there's no doubt about this guy's involvement in the streets, as he was charged and acquitted of a 2021 murder in 2024, where after his release, he even thanked Drake publicly for paying his lawyer fees.
Holy shit.
Although he has since been rearrested for gun possession in January 2025. Now, NHS has been described by some as one of the most dangerous gangs in the city, but this title has been given to many hoods in every city, so it's hard to say. And with many of the members currently locked up or dead, this is even harder to prove. But they do seem to take credit for at least one unsolved murder in Toronto, with the man they diss called YB still having his face featured on Toronto's current homicide investigations list. And this murder having taken place all the way back in 2018, it's unlikely that the Toronto police have any hard evidence to prove who did it, and it will likely remain unsolved. As in any city, it's common for guys to seemingly take credit for murders they didn't commit, just to be disrespectful to another set. And YB was known to be at least associated with some members of the Mount Olive clique. It's also rumored that he could have just been an unaffiliated associate, which is just as dangerous as being a part of it. For instance, while listening to the story of 600 Tricks out of Chicago as told by Tay Capone, Tricks ended up being killed essentially because he allowed himself to be used by 600, as they would simply just use him as a ride to go and shoot at people out of his own personal vehicle. As most gang members are teenagers, and in a city, unlike a small town, most teens don't have their own personal vehicle. And the reason I say an associate is just as dangerous as being a full member is because even in high school, it's not hard to grasp the fact that when you're seen with a group of guys, no shooter is just going to stop to ask your exact affiliation before they start shooting. So it's up to you.
I learned that shit the hard way, boy. I learned that shit the hard way, boy. If you start hanging out with a crowd, if you see them with them one time, 2 times, 3 times, somebody may or may not, but it depends on who see you and when they see you. You see what I'm saying? But if you start being known to be associated with these people, ain't nobody really gonna ask you like, hey, you be out there robbing with them? You be out there shooting with them? They just think in their head, if I get you, it's less of y'all. Do your homework. One less nigga I gotta worry about doing something to me. So that's how they think, folks.
If you're gonna let yourself be put in this situation, as Tricks wasn't a killer, a shooter, or anything other than a ride, essentially. But this cost him his life.
Right.
And he was even disrespected by members of 600 such as C-Day, who disowned him, further showing that it's not even worth it to do something like this.
That's crazy.
As you might have heard in one of my earlier videos, I have a friend who was shot 5 times, essentially just for letting the wrong people smoke in his car. So your involvement doesn't even have to go as deep as being a riot like Tricks. Now, back to top 5 and NHS. On a quick side note, there's a difference between reporting on rumors in the street that these guys report on themselves when they hop on social media and actually hosting an argument between rivals like something like Clubhouse. DJ Academics, a guy who once called out Brandon Buckingham for being a culture vulture, likely only because Brandon is white, once hosted top 5 and one of his ops, Doovie from NHS, on a live stream where they disrespected each other's dead friends, and Act just sat back and watched while making millions from it. He's also the one that reposted top 5 thanking Drake for paying his lawyer fees. And despite being a direct vulture, Ack is not from any hood in the USA. In fact, he spent his entire childhood and teenage years, you know, the years where you jump off the porch, in Jamaica. Although I've never heard him speak about
That's a culture vulture too. You can't, just because you black don't mean you part of the culture, bro.
Hood in Jamaica. And he only came to the US once he started attending Rutgers University, which is probably where he perfected his New Jersey accent. I would never host any gang member on my channel, even if they was from my neighborhood in Chicago.
Especially let them go back and forth with each other, and you ain't even like, y'all stop. Like you ain't even. It ain't even like you can't put them on here to mend the differences. You put them on here so they could go together at each other and could diss each other ops and all that, so you can get paid because you knew it was gonna go viral.
Unless we was talking about some peace or trying to push the kids in the right direction. I'm not about to bring y'all up here to argue, especially not guys from another city, let alone a foreign country. That's what you call a vulture. But moving away from all that for a second, the Toronto accent is very unique.
Yo, what's going on, fam? You good, fam? You saying, fam?
Greatly reflecting the fact
Boy, that shit is funny. You dig my ass, that shit funny.
That Canada, despite its proximity and the fact that we speak the same language, is far different from the USA. I'm not sure if it's the influence of Pidgin, which in case you didn't know, Pidgin, grammatically, develops as a simplified way for groups that don't speak the same language to communicate. I.e., the most known form of Pidgin, at least in the USA, is Jamaican Patois, although Pidgin is also spoken in many other parts of the world. This is why, despite speaking English, many Americans just cannot seem to easily understand when someone from Jamaica begins to speak, even leading to a huge misconception by many Americans that Jamaicans are speaking a foreign language when they are in fact speaking English, just not the Queen's English. For example, when I was in college, I had a buddy from Lagos, Nigeria, who I just could not understand when he was on the phone with someone back in Nigeria, despite the fact he told me he was speaking English. He's actually the one to clarify what Pidgin was to me, by the way. And Toronto is one of the most multicultural and multiracial cities in the entire world.
Hey, y'all know I was finna move. I was real close to moving to Toronto. If Toronto was hot, I would have seriously considered moving out there just because it's so safe. You know what I'm saying? That's really it. So safe, and my money goes longer out there, and the taxes I think the taxes actually a little worse. But once I start understanding that Canada ain't all like what I thought, I'm like, shit, I'm finna stay in Miami. Y'all tripping.
The similarities of Pidgin and the dialect spoken here could be a result of those island boys, not them, these island boys from the British Isles, spreading English all over the world due to most English speakers' unwillingness to learn a foreign language. Jokes aside, Canada is in the Commonwealth of Nations, which a vast majority of nations in the Commonwealth being former parts of the British Empire, and many people from these nations actually immigrated to Canada. And the Commonwealth seems very suspiciously like a cover for the King of England to still be the head of state in most of these nations, ceremonial or not. Also, for some of my Americans that probably don't know, the UK and Canada still have the same head of state, with the King having his own personal residence in Canada, and the Governor General, who was appointed by the King, not by vote, technically outranking the Prime Minister of Canada. The Navy is called the Royal Canadian Navy, and the Air Force is also royal. And even though Rideau Hall is the official residence of the Governor General, it becomes the residence of the King whenever he's in Ottawa, so what, does she have to just get out when he's in town? Also, Drake only seems to share the Toronto accent when he wants to most of the time. He could have either just been in the US for too long, or is this just how people from Forest Hill sound? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I didn't just want to stick to gang violence specifically because obviously that wouldn't tell the whole story of Toronto. Despite the fact that it can get pretty brutal here, including the weather in the winter, Toronto obviously has a very rich history and culture.
Damn, I ain't gonna lie, the more I learn about like different countries and different places, how it really be going down everywhere. Like it's really all the same. Toronto was a lot safer, But if you go in a certain area, it's going the fuck down, my guy. You feel me? So it's real interesting seeing like different countries like really had their own drill, and then to know all this drill shit, all this dissing ops, trolling ops on live camera, all this shit came from Chicago is just spooky as hell to me, folks.